I'm Ed Rabyd, otherwise known as the Rabyd Atheist, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational. In regards in particular to atheist and deconversion issues, in particular in regards to the Bible, theology, and a little politics thrown in there from time to time. Today I want to continue on in my examination, reaction more than anything else, to a letter and a subsequent tract or brochure I received from the Jehovah Witnesses. In fact, this is going to be the concluding part where I deal with their end, the back page of the pamphlet, and I'm also going to have some final thoughts. If you want to watch the full series, I'll link video 1 above my head, and then after that video 2, and then after that video 3. So if you watch all 3 of those videos, you'll be caught up, and then you can come here and listen to the rest. Now, just a reminder, this is a reaction. I'm not claiming to be an expert on the Jehovah Witnesses. I've been very thankful for a lot of the comments that have corrected me on understand. Thank you very much. I appreciate the information. So with that said, this is just me reacting as an atheist receiving this kind of pitch. Okay. Now, first of all, I'm thankful that the Jehovah Witnesses are being respectful of the scientific and medical community, saying, hey, you know, we probably shouldn't be doing door-to-door witnessing. You could spread COVID. You know, I have my own misgivings about COVID, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I think it shows a little bit of conscientiousness on their part of saying, hey, you know, we're going to have a lot of people, fearful of us, so they found alternative means. And they're probably focused on that. So on that particular note, I'm thankful for that. However, does this approach work with an atheist? And so far in the other parts, I've kind of said, no, not really. So what's their final appeal? What's their final pitch? Once again, I haven't read this. I'm reading this cold, and this is how I'm going to react. All right? It says, this has been just a brief look at the Bible's answers to 6 questions. Yes, it is a brief look. It's also a very poor one. I mean, the assumption that the Bible has those answers, to me, as somebody who has a biblical studies degree, who preached from it for well over 20 years. I mean, I started preaching when I was 16 years old, and I didn't quit until I was 48 or so, 49. That's a lot of years of looking at a Bible, and before that, being a Bible quizzer and being at Sunday school every week. Yeah, I know the Bible. The problem I have with the Bible being used to answer life's questions is that often the questions are based on make-believe. The answers to those questions are based on make-believe. And there's really not a lot of proof for the claims that the Bible makes or the people make using the Bible as their source material. So as an atheist, I would immediately say, well, yeah, I get your brief look. I'm also going to point out that it's a poor one, that your answers aren't very good, and that your propositions can't be verified. Do you want to know more than that? No. Okay. I already know way too frickin' much to be any kind of believer anymore. The real problem is that I know too much. I remember when I was at work, one of my coworkers asked me why I had left the ministry and became an atheist. And my response was, I know too much. And that's still pretty much my pat answer to why I don't believe in anything faith-based, is I know enough to know that the evidence for the existence of God is almost non-existent, and that which kind of indicates it could be interpreted another way. My point is this: I still haven't been given sufficient evidence to believe in God, let alone any one group or individual's interpretation of God. So you still haven't gotten me, okay? If you are among those conscious of their spiritual need, no doubt you do. How do you define spiritual need? Also, aren't you kind of assuming that people have a spiritual need? What if there's nothing spiritual at all? Then wouldn't that be some sort of other need? When I look at human needs, I now realize that, yes, religion checks off a lot of buttons for those. For a lot of people, it gives them life purpose. For other people, it just kind of provides for them some answers, if you don't look too deeply, to some of their life's questions. Community. If there's one thing the church and religion does better than atheists, it's a sense of community. And maybe that's because atheists are still very diverse. I keep reminding people that the only similarity between all atheists is a lack of belief in a divine being or beings, no gods, okay? No God or gods, basically. So that's it. They're all over the political spectrum. They're all over the morals and ethical spectrum. You name it, it's there, okay? But that's the only commonality. And so when people want to, attack atheists in general, they really often mess up because they don't realize how diverse atheists are. And so that's kind of where I kind of draw the line. But most of us are going to pretty much say that there's nothing such thing as spiritual. Now, I've met some spiritualized atheists, for instance. Pagans tend to be spiritualized atheists a little bit too, depending on their version of paganism. But I don't know. I don't believe in this thing called a spiritual need. I think other needs inherent. We have a need to feel a sense of belonging. We have a need to have our needs met, like food, clothing, shelter, feel emotionally secure. Sex drive is a need. There's needs everywhere. And these needs are perfectly normal and perfectly human. You've convinced people to call something a spiritual need that really probably isn't anything spiritual at all. It's probably something emotional and mental that's kind of messed together. You may wonder about other questions, such as if God cares about it, why has he allowed so much evil and suffering in the history? That's a damn good question. This is one of my very early arguments, and it still remains one of my arguments. If I, as a parent, were to see one of my children suffering and I had the power to stop it, I would. And that just proves that I'm more moral and have a better sense of what is good and right in the world than the God of the Bible, because apparently he doesn't do shit, and he certainly doesn't have any compassion. Because I'm sorry, I've had one of my children in the hospital, going through some major shit. And he was very young, 4 years old. And I would have given anything to take away his pain at the time. And, God didn't come through on that one. The medical community did. When I look back at it in retrospect, they're the ones that alleviated my son's pain and problem. And quite frankly, if I'm an all-powerful, loving being, if I end suffering. And that just proves that I have more love and compassion than this fictitious God. So, yeah, it's a good damn question because it kind of disproves the existence of God. And no matter how much I tried to shake and dance around the arguments along that line, I ended up right back at square. You know what? They have a damn good point. So there it is. How can I improve the quality of my family life? Pay attention to it. Communicate. You don't need God for any of that. The Bible gives full and satisfying answers to those and many more questions. I'm going to say something. Bullshit. No, it doesn't. I am sorry. Some of the answers that the supposed Bible gives to life's questions are bad answers. They're just garbage. To sit there and say it's a good answer to, have people in submission to you all the time, have people doing their thing instead of, just letting them live, I think is a really lousy answer. The Bible has lousy answers for society. It has lousy answers. Most of its stuff is obey authority, obey authority. Well, what if the authorities are tyrannical and pieces of shit? That's not good advice. That's just acquiescence. Okay, obedience is not a virtue. Okay, faith is not a virtue. I'm not going to have faith in a book that has lousy answers. I mean, come on, the Old Testament endorses slavery, for God's sake. And don't give me the bullshit about it's a different kind of slavery. No, it's not, because the Israelites were allowed to enslave the people around them and keep those slaves as property forever. The Bible even says so. Sorry, I don't like the Bible's answers. I think they kind of suck. And I don't want anybody telling me what they say either. However, many today hesitate to look into the Bible. They see it as a lengthy book that is sometimes hard to understand. It's a lengthy book that is almost impossible to understand at points because it's complete bullshit, mind everywhere, logically inconsistent, not contradicts reality itself and everything else. It's not just that it's hard to understand, it makes itself hard to understand with the way it's written. You know, it seems like an all-powerful, omniscient being that could look through all the fields of history could write a book or inspire a book in such a way that it would be easily understood and be absolutely crystal clear that it's the Bible. But the fact that we argue about it kind of indicates that none of that is true. Would you like help to understand the answers of the Bible? No, I've been down that road. No. Okay. Would you? Jehovah Witnesses offer 2 tools that can assist you. Oh boy, this is going to get good. First, the book, What Does the Bible Really Teach, is designed to help busy people to examine the Bible's clear questions, answers, and vital questions. I am fairly certain this is going to be slanted towards the JW's interpretation. I don't know. Probably going to happen. The second tool is a free program of home Bible study without charge. A friendly neighbor qualified to teach the Bible can come to your home or another convenient location and spend a little time each week discussing the Bible with you. Millions of people the world over have benefited from this program. Many of them have come to this thrilling conclusion: I have found the truth. Well, yeah, if that's the only viewpoint you get. You know, if you're going to study the Bible, I'll tell you what. I'll do an atheist Bible study with you. We'll have some fun. We'll go to some of the places of the Bible that are complete crap. And I'll sit there and ask you a question. How do you justify this as being a holy book with this kind of crap in it? I kind of sense that that's what's going to happen. For me, when I was a Christian, I had a lot of answers to those questions, but I knew that they were all weak arguments and they had weak crap to them. So I ended up kind of realizing that, and then the more I tried to find good arguments, it just didn't exist. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. If you're only going to get one perspective, one group's Bible study or one group's book that answers questions, I mean, it seems to me, why would you need a book if the Bible has all the answers to all the damn questions? Then why do you need a book to help you understand what the Bible says? It seems to me that an omnipotent, omniscient God could write a book that wouldn't need any commentary. I mean, it was one of the things that bothered me right from Bible college on. Why the hell does the Bible need commentary if it's plain to understand? Bothered me all through my ministry until finally I said, you know what? The reason it needs a commentary to help you understand it is not that it's not understandable. It's that what it says is complete and utter fabrication, and you begin to realize that a lot of it is garbage. You know, there's a few things that are nice and there's a few things that are true, but the rest of it is mythology. It's a kind of Eastern mythology. That's all it is. And people don't like it when I say that, but give me some evidence on how it's different than any other mythology. And usually they don't have a clue. Most Christians are going to be like these JW converts that when they get converted by something and there's only one point of view, and that's the quote-unquote the truth, what opportunity have they had to listen to the critics of Jehovah Witnesses? It seems to me that if you really wanted to prove that your religious viewpoint was true, you wouldn't have any fear of having people go to other sources. Well, at least Jehovah Witnesses say that this is the truth. What do you say? And there should be a line from atheists to all other Christians saying, this is what's wrong. And if the truth, there's no such thing. There are truths. There are things that conform to reality that have predictive power. There are things that, we can verify with experiment and observation, scientific method, things like that. We can look into things, delve deeply into them, study them, come up with data, draw some conclusions. We can have some truths, small t, okay, with a plural. The truth, the singular central truth, I don't think it exists. And that's okay, because I'm really good at being okay with saying I don't know now, which is something that really, once you realize there's no truth, that really humbles you. And so you don't go around, whatever. You go around more of, well, I'm kind of just a speck on a speck on a speck spinning around the universe on a blew up dot. That's a humbling feeling that you're not the center of God's universe, and I don't know. This is kind of telling me right at this point, when you're offering a free Bible study and a free book, what you're really looking at, in my perspective, is this. You're trying to find the people that are interested and think that your answers to these questions, which are, in my opinion, complete and utter garbage. No. These questions, you've cherry-picked them, and you've answered them in such a way that they sometimes weren't answered, and other times they were answered poorly. But you don't care about that. See, this is what I've learned about any evangelism technique. You don't really give two craps whether the answers are really good. What you're trying to do is convince somebody's will and heart. You're trying to get them to intuitively take a leap into your faith. And you're not really interested in the truth. What you're interested in is emotional manipulation. You wouldn't call it that. You'll call it proselytization or evangelism. But what you really are is manipulating weak-minded or weak-hearted people that are maybe going through a hard time. You can't come to my door and knock on it or engage me in a conversation, because I'm going to have an entirely different conversation than somebody that's a little bit not really sure of what they believe. And so I guess I find this a little bit dishonest, because you're basically saying, we've found it, we've got all the answers, and nobody else has the right to talk. We just want you to look at our material, not anybody else's. It seems to me if a religion was true, it wouldn't have any real fear of having other people criticize it. And in so doing, it would end up making stronger. The proposition that can't be attacked by argument is not actually a strong proposition. The strongest propositions, the strongest hypotheses are one that put themselves out there, identify what would falsify them, and then let them be attacked by scrutiny. It's why I look at a lot of these cults and religious groups, and one of the things that they really try to do is control your access to information. They only want you to read your stuff but not read anything else. Why is that? Seems strange. To any Jehovah Witnesses out there, I've got to let you know, dude, go read some critics of your people. And if you're still a Jehovah Witness after you read all those critics, more power to you, but at least give yourself the opportunity of knowing what people genuinely think about your faith and why they think it's wrong. Okay, including me. The Bible isn't the inspired word of God. You haven't offered up any evidential proof of God's existence. And thus, you certainly haven't proven that God has a wonderful plan for my life or any kind of afterlife for that. I mean, trying to prove the afterlife is like trying to prove what? Air? I don't know. I'm giving it too much credit, because air actually exists. I don't know what else to say other than you're trying to prove something that's unprovable. You don't have any evidence for it. So you're just believing. And that's what makes belief a dishonest position, trusting in something you can't prove. One more paragraph. There is no greater treasure to be found in the Bible's truth. It liberates us from superstition, confusion, and morbid fear. Belief in God is superstition. Belief in something spiritual that you can't see is superstition. There is no more difference than believing in luck of the rabbit's foot and believing in God. You believe in something you don't have any evidence for, and that's superstition. I always love it when any religion claims that they're not the superstitious ones. It's like, what the hell's the difference? You go to an altar and pray, or you go out and chant boogie woogie in the middle of nowhere. What difference does that make? It doesn't matter what you think the truth is. What matters is what you can verify. And no, as far as confusion and morbid fear, I am far less confused about myself. My only problem is motivation most of the time, which is probably almost everybody's problem. But I don't have any problem with identity anymore. I know who I am and what I'm capable of doing and what my responsibilities are. The real issue these days for me is motivation. Okay. And morbid fear, I'm not afraid. People go, oh, you atheists must be afraid of death. You got nothing to look forward to. When I'm dead, I'm not going to be afraid, happy, sad, or anything. I'll be dead. I don't have any fear of death. People ask me how I view that. There's an old saying, embrace death like embracing the embrace of a beautiful woman. And that's for men, I suppose. They could turn it around to use it for men or whatever. For women, the other way, just, embrace it. I think I'm trying to remember what Mark Twain said about it, Samuel Clemens. It's like, it's the great liberation or something to that effect, that you finally get to do something without anybody interfering, I think is what he said, but I'm not sure. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong about that. I seem to remember somebody saying that, and I just don't remember who. Finally get to do something, but yeah, it's kind of, I don't have a morbid fear. It doesn't do me any good anyway to be afraid. You can't stop what you fear. Okay, you can only face it with courage. That's one of my virtues, so that's a plug. It gives us hope, purpose, and joy. No, it doesn't. It gives you false hope, a false purpose based on a lie, and joy is relative, very, very relative. I get what you're saying there, but no, it gives you kind of a sense of security and happiness that isn't justified. Jesus said, the truth, you will know the truth and the truth will make you free. Yeah, well, I'm fairly certain that religion doesn't have the truth. So it's not going to set you free. And anybody can say that. It's quite another to prove it. Well, this has been an interesting little foray into the world of, evangelism. And like I said, I wasn't trying to just pick on the Jehovah Witnesses there. I'm trying to get at the mindset of evangelists and people who evangelize and groups that evangelize. And I'm going to tell you straight, the Jehovah Witnesses are pretty much like everybody else. They go after weak-minded people going through a hard time. They're not looking for people like me because I'm not easily manipulated. I'm not easily convinced. They're looking for the sheep that they can slaughter, that they can fleece. And, I find it despicable now. I used to do on the street evangelism. I wasn't actually very good at it myself, but I taught a lot of people that were very successful at it. I now regret that because looking back at it, it's this, I didn't do any. I'm not picking on the Jehovah Witnesses because I've seen every evangelical group that does this sort of thing do the same techniques. And that's what's really despicable to me now about it. But, it's been an interesting ride and just a reaction. I'm not an expert. I'm just reacting. I get this stuff in the mail and I go, what the holy hell are they sending this to me for? And, they're just sending it to whoever. I read it, dismissed it. Then I thought, I'd make a hell of a little short series, so let's do it. And I hope you've enjoyed the ride, and I'm glad you've come along. And hopefully someday I can convince you to be a rabid atheist like myself. In the meantime, this is Ed Rabyd, also known as the Rabid Atheist, signing off and wishing you a good day.